2009 Inauguration Day.
The inaugural ball. They walked out. She had on that gorgeous white dress.
What's the guy's name? Luther.
Oh, yeah.
Knocking on the Oval Office window, I would say, that was probably the peak of my entire existence.
The moment when he picked me, I was so happy. I have to be the last question.
Before I answer your question, why don't you give me a little rep? Let's see what you got.
I was so emotional, I was crying. Thank you, President Obama, for coming to Vietnam.
It's the first time in my life I felt like the White House belonged to everybody.
And you really felt, you felt those first 3 words of the Constitution, we the people. Like, it was one of those first times in my life that I felt like I was really part of that we.
My Obama moment was when I received this letter from President Obama last year, welcoming me to become a U.S. citizen.
When he just changed all the rules on the table in regards to Cuba with the most succinct motivation imaginable, which is what we've been doing hasn't worked, which made all the sense in the world.
My Obama moment was the signing of the Paris Agreement and making the United States a leader in the fight against global warming.
When I was at the UN and I heard our president say that climate change is the most important issue facing not only this generation but all future generations, it was inspiring.
For me, it was traveling with the president to schools in Boston, and the way he engaged the students, it was just one of those moments to see him connect like that that I think you see throughout his presidency.
My favorite President Obama moment was when he was elected president in 2008, because in 2008 was when I was born.
I never cried before from election result.
I don't know, just the magic of that moment, of that man who we'd all been on this journey with, take that stage with his family. I was sitting at home in my living room and I felt like I was a part of that crowd in that park.
I didn't think I would live to see an African-American emerge as president, but he did.
3rd grade, when we had this project to write a letter to the White House, it was really strange when he actually replied back, because it was like, whoa, I'm a 3rd grader and I can actually get a response from the president. I can actually make a difference.
In the aftermath of the school shootings in Connecticut, I don't know how he did it.
At one point, at the lectern, started to sing Amazing Grace, and the entire congregation stood up and did the same. And to me, it was just a powerful moment, and one that the nation needed, and one that he was able to provide.
His battle towards the end to pardon a lot of convicted felons who have been given heavy sentences for small drug-related crimes.
What I remember most about the visit was how excited everybody in my house was, and especially all the young people who were helping us. And I think the way they got so excited and so happy about it was something that I would always remember.
When the President of the United States lit the first ever diya in the White House as a symbol of the Hindu Festival of Lights.
President Obama put sexual violence on the map as an issue. Survivors can now speak about their experiences without shame. It's been amazing to be a part of that movement.
The moment that, we got the Affordable Care Act passed, because I have relatives that, can't afford health insurance. So it was really a great thing to know that if something happened to them, they get cared for.
The excitement we had when the Affordable Care Act became a law. My particular case, I have a pre-existing condition which was finally able to be cared for medically.
The most memorable Obama moment for me is when he said, "Eat your peas."
Eat our peas.
Which means just do it or get the most important things done first.
The CVS experience with Michelle was pretty cool. And dancing with Barak at his birthday party. And he's a good dancer. He should not get any flack for that. You're a good dancer.
He's my role model, my idol, because I want to be president.
When he wished Happy New Year to all the Iranian Americans, and he said Eid Shom Mubarak live on CNN. Perfectly.
How often do we remember Jackie Robinson? Everybody does. To me, he would be the Jackie Robinson of politics from my standpoint.
Told everybody to clear out of the way and got the kid to pressurize the marshmallow gun, and they launched it. Oh! So Obama out.
Dropped the mic on him, blew the kiss, and when I saw that, it absolutely blew me away.
So let's start with this fact. For more than 1,000 years, people have been drawn to Islam's message of peace. And the very word itself, Islam, comes from salam, peace. The standard greeting is, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And like so many faiths, Islam is rooted in a commitment to compassion and mercy and justice and charity. Whoever wants to enter paradise, the Prophet Muhammad taught, let him treat people the way he would love to be treated. And for Christians like myself, I'm assuming that sounds familiar. The world's 1.6 billion Muslims are as diverse as humanity itself. They are Arabs and Africans. They're from Latin America to Southeast Asia, Brazilians, Nigerians, Bangladeshis, Indonesians. They are white and brown and black. There's a large African American Muslim community. That diversity is represented here today. A 14-year-old boy in Texas who's Muslim spoke for many when he wrote to me and said, we just want to live in peace. So here's another fact. Islam has always been part of America. Starting in colonial times, many of the slaves brought here from Africa were Muslim. And even in their bondage, some kept their faith alive. A few even won their freedom and became known to many Americans. And when enshrining the freedom of religion in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, our founders meant what they said when they said it applied to all religions. Generations of Muslim Americans helped to build our nation. They were part of the flow of immigrants who became farmers and merchants. They built America's first mosque, surprisingly enough, in North Dakota. America's oldest surviving mosque is in Iowa. The first Islamic center in New York City was built in the 1890s. Muslim Americans worked on Henry Ford's assembly line, cranking out cars. A Muslim American designed the skyscrapers of Chicago. Perhaps the most pertinent fact. Muslim Americans enrich our lives today in every way. They're our neighbors, the teachers who inspire our children, the doctors who trust us with our health, future doctors like Saba. They're scientists who win Nobel Prizes, young entrepreneurs who are creating new technologies that we use all the time. They're the sports heroes we cheer for, like Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon. And by the way, when Team USA marches into the next Olympics, one of the Americans waving the red, white, and blue will be a fencing champion wearing her hijab. Ibtihaj Muhammad, who is here today, stand up. Come on, let me. There you go. So the best way for us to fight terrorism is to deny these organizations legitimacy and to show that here in the United States of America, we do not suppress Islam. We celebrate and lift up the success of Muslim Americans. That's how we show the lie that they're trying to propagate. We shouldn't play into terrorist propaganda. And we can't suggest that Islam itself is at the root of the problem. That betrays our values. It alienates Muslim Americans. It's hurtful to those kids who are trying to go to school and are members of the Boy Scouts and are thinking about joining our military. You don't have to all be this serious. Welcome to the White House. Now, I know that these are the longest days of the year, which is why I'm so glad that they put the first course down right away. I know you're hungry, and I promise to be brief. I want to thank the members of our diplomatic corps who are here today, as well as our members of Congress and all those serving across government who are joining us. And I especially want to recognize all the inspiring young people who are here today, many of whom I've put at my table. To all of you, and to Muslim Americans across the country, Ramadan Kareem. Our annual White House Iftar recognizes the sacredness of Ramadan to more than 1.5 billion Muslims around the world. It's a time when Muslims recommit themselves to their faith, following days of discipline with nights of gratitude for the gifts that God bestows. It's a time of spiritual renewal and a reminder of one's duty to our fellow man, to serve one another and lift up the less fortunate. The Quran teaches that God's children should tread gently upon the earth and, when confronted by ignorance, reply, peace. In honoring these familiar values together of peace and charity and forgiveness, we affirm that whatever our faith, we're all one family. Our iftar is also a reminder of the freedoms that bind us together as Americans, including the freedom of religion, that inviolable right to practice our faiths freely. That's what Samantha Eloff represents. She was determined to defend the right to wear a hijab, to have the same opportunities as everybody else. She went all the way to the Supreme Court, which I didn't do at her age, and she won. So, Samantha, we're very proud of you. When our values are threatened, we come together as one nation. When 3 young Muslim Americans were brutally murdered in Chapel Hill earlier this year, Americans of all faith rallied around that community. And obviously tonight our prayers remain with Charleston and Mother Emanuel Church. As Americans, we insist that nobody should be targeted because of who they are or what they look like, who they love, how they worship. We stand united against these hateful acts. These are the freedoms and the ideals and the values that we uphold. And it's more important than ever because around the world and here at home, there are those who seek to divide us by religion or race or sect. Here in America, many people personally don't know someone who's Muslim. They mostly hear about Muslims in the news, and that can obviously lead to a very distorted impression. We saw this play out recently at a mosque in Arizona. A group of protesters gathered outside with offensive signs against Islam and Muslims. And then the mosque's leaders invited them inside to share in the evening prayer. One demonstrator who accepted the invitation later described how the experience changed him, how he finally saw the Muslim American community for what it is, peaceful and welcoming. That's what can happen when we stop yelling and start listening. That's why it's so important always to lift up the stories and voices of proud Americans who are contributing to our country every day. And we have a lot of inspiring Americans here today. There are Muslim Americans like Zaid Ahmed. As a Bangladeshi American growing up in New Jersey, he saw early on that there was not enough understanding in the world, so 2 years ago he founded Redefy, a website to push back against harmful stereotypes by encouraging teens like him, he's only 16, I think our youngest guest tonight, to share their stories. Because in Zaid's words, ignorance can be defeated through education. He wants to do his part to make sure that Muslims can be equal members of society and still hold on to their faith and identity. So we're very proud of you, Zaid. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I am honored to be in the timeless city of Cairo and to be hosted by 2 remarkable institutions. For over 1,000 years, Al-Azhar has stood as a beacon of Islamic learning. And for over a century, Cairo University has been a source of Egypt's advancement. And together, you represent the harmony between tradition and progress. I'm grateful for your hospitality and the hospitality of the people of Egypt. And I'm also proud to carry with me the goodwill of the American people and a greeting of peace from Muslim communities in my country. Assalamu alaikum. We meet at a time of great tension. Out of many, one. Now, much has been made of the fact that an African American with the name Barak Hussein Obama could be elected president. But my personal story is not so unique. The dream of opportunity for all people has not come true for everyone in America, but its promise exists for all who come to our shores. And that includes nearly 7 million American Muslims in our country today, who, by the way, enjoy incomes and educational levels that are higher than the American average. Moreover, freedom in America is indivisible from the freedom to practice one's religion. That is why there is a mosque in every state in our union and over 1,200 mosques within our borders. That's why the United States government has gone to court to protect the right of women and girls to wear the hijab and to punish those who would deny it. So let there be no doubt. Let there be no doubt, Islam is a part of America.
Over the past 8 years, Chief White House photographer Pete Souza has taken as many as 2,000 pictures a day of President Obama, some recording singular events in the nation's history, and some simply capturing a moment.
On Halloween a few years ago, this was the son of a staffer, and as he was leaving, he said, "Zap me in your web." One of the things that I'm just trying to do is show him, not just as a president, but as a human being. What's he like as a man?
In 2005, Souza was working for the Chicago Tribune when he began taking pictures of Barack Obama, then a new senator from Illinois.
I loved his pictures. Not only does he have an amazing eye, not only are his pictures evocative, accurate, creative, but he's also become a great friend and somebody I trust.
Souza took this photo in 2007 as Obama was about to announce his candidacy for president.
He's about to walk out, and his life is never going to be the same.
And in 2009, the new president offered Pete Souza the job of White House photographer, a job he'd had before during Ronald Reagan's presidency.
I never aspired to do this again, but the opportunity presented itself.
That usually meant a long day of shadowing the president, whether at the arrival of the Italian prime minister for an official visit, in the Oval Office as Mr. Obama made phone calls, or watching Mr. Obama and his wife pass out treats on Halloween.
I basically go in whenever I want and stay in as long as I want.
And the president had no problem with that.
He understands how to get his shot without being obtrusive.
But now it's about to end.
It's been an extraordinary gift because I have the kind of chronicle.
And, says Mr. Obama, Souza has also taken some iconic photographs.
Watching to see if the bin Laden operation was going to be successful.
You could feel the tension in that room, and my job was to not disturb the moment, yet try to capture visually what was taking place.
And of less solemn moments.
The little boy touching my head.
The president bent down, and Jacob touched his head to feel his head.
When staff members brought their children to the White House, there was sometimes a presidential visit.
I was in disbelief that the President of the United States was lying down in the Oval Office.
How do you decide when it's appropriate to intrude on a president?
It's more intuition than it is anything. But there's certain times when you know, okay, let's give him some space.
Or when the president in a museum impulsively boarded the bus which had carried Rosa Parks the day she sat in the whites-only section.
Just the one frame of him looking out the window, it evokes the past in a lot of ways.
To preserve the here and now meant understanding his subject and anticipating movements.
You have to be ready, and I think that's sort of like what keeps you on your toes. Because like that, it's like, boom, it happens, and then it's gone.
When a friend told Sousa that after 8 years he'd made every picture he could possibly make, he almost conceded her point. But just a few days later, at the opening of the new African American Museum,
I made 2 photographs that I'm still proud of to this day. The vice president was kneeling down talking to the daughter of a slave. And literally like 30 seconds later, President Bush handed President Obama a smartphone and asked him to take a picture of him with a group of people.
On January 20th, one of the pictures that he takes is going to be the last picture of you as president. What do you hope it captures?
I hope he captures my wave as I have a big grin and I say, I'm going on vacation.